Welcome to Sincerely Shan. Today I have a Tello.edu product review and Python programming tutorial for you guys. And this channel was really made out of my desire to keep doing what I love, learning new things, and sharing it with the world. So if you find this video helpful, definitely be sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more drone projects and tutorials that I have coming up soon. And today, before we get into how to operate Tello, I wanted to share a little bit about my experience using the Tello.edu and just give it, a review overall. For those of you who may be watching who don't have a Tello yet or are thinking of buying it, this may be helpful for you. And I actually ended up getting the Tello.edu for my undergraduate honors thesis project, where I was trying to, achieve my year-long dream of putting a small drone show or drone swarm into one of my choreography performances. And I've got a video where you can see all the details on that, but that's kind of how I ended up even finding out what the Tello.edu was. And overall, it's really just this small, lightweight drone, and it's programmable, which is really nice. And I found that using it was very intuitive and user-friendly, and I was able to just ramp up in my operation of the Tello pretty quickly. So I would definitely say to anyone who's a beginner or has never, even thought about having a drone, it's a good place to start. And it also has the capability of taking aerial photos and videos using the front camera on the front of this drone. And it's not the highest quality camera drone you can buy, but if you want something where you can shoot cool aerial videos for a low price, definitely take a look at the Tello and Tello.edu. It's got a 5 megapixel camera and shoots 720 video. And I've had some fun with it using some of its cool features and doing cool panorama type videos with its 360 mode or up and aways, and I'll share more on what those look like in a little. And it's remote controlled, all using an app on your phone, and you connect to the Tello using its Tello Wi-Fi network, and you're able to use all the in-app controllers and indicators to fly indoors, outdoors. If you are flying outdoors, you definitely want to make sure it's not a super windy day. You can fly outdoors, but you want to make sure the weather conditions are right. And overall, I would say I've definitely enjoyed my experience using Tello.edu thus far. And the price for Tello.edu is $129, but there's also the Tello that you can get, which I believe has almost all of the same functionality as the Tello.edu, with the exception of swarming. So the Tello.edu has the capability to tie multiple together and build a drone swarm, whereas the Tello doesn't have that. But for the price of $9.99 for the Tello, you can do some of the same stuff we're gonna do in this tutorial and this demonstration. Alright, so now we're going to go over how to operate the Tello. So this portion of the video is really helpful if you don't feel like reading the user manual. And basically all of your control for Tello is going to happen inside the Tello app. So you're going to log in, well actually no, you can do this in either order, but you're going to download and log into the Tello app, and you'll see a screen that looks like this that says how to connect. And basically this is just prompting you to connect to the Tello's Wi-Fi network. So you connect to the Tello Wi-Fi network, and once you've done that, you're basically able to get in and use all of the controls. There's joystick-like controls at the bottom of the screen that you can use to be able to go up. You will do your initial takeoff and then go up, down, side to side, pan around its central axis, and also use some of its different flight modes. So the drone boasts these interesting flight modes you can use rather than just manually controlling it, that do things like bounce, 8D flips. You've got 360, which will just have it set to spin for a full 360, and you can also use up and away, which that's one of my favorites, up and away, where it will just start recording and flying and then gradually kind of zoom out on a video subject. So that's one I've always had fun with. And was that all 6? I may be missing one, but yeah, so it has some cool flight modes you can use along with its manual controls in the app. So once you've connected to the Tello Wi-Fi, and say this is your first time opening up your Tello and you're about to run, there are a few things you may need to do first. So one of those things is calibrating the IMU, and another is updating the firmware. And so you can do that by going into the app and clicking on the settings icon. So there's a little gear icon at the top, and you click on that, you click on more, and there's another little icon that looks like an ellipsis, and you're going to click on that, and both of the buttons for calibrating the IMU and for updating the firmware are right there on that screen. I don't know if you guys are actually seeing this, but I'll overlay it later. And so yeah, so you may want to do that before your first Tello flight right out of the box. And another thing you may want to do is charge the battery. I am struggling to remember, it's been well over 6 months since I first got this, but I'm struggling to remember if the battery was charged right out of the box. So you may need to just charge the battery before your first flight. If you just got a Tello and you want to start flying and use that full 13 minutes of flight time that it has, you're going to need to charge it to a full percentage. And so the battery just goes in the back of the Tello like this. This is the battery. You can get a battery pack charger for if you're like me and you bought 4 Tellos. You might want to get one, or you have multiple batteries. You might want to get like a cool battery charger thing. I don't have mine sitting right by me, but if I had it, I would show you. And if not, you can charge the Tello by placing the battery in the device, and then there is a micro USB port on here. Oh yes, okay. There's a micro USB port that you're going to plug into, and then you'll be given a cord for micro USB to USB with your purchase. And I believe the adapter you have to provide yourself. And you want to make sure that that's a 5 volt and 1.5 amp or above adapter, otherwise it will not charge. It says this in the user manual, so it's like you think you should know, but I did it the first time, and I think I had a 1 amp adapter or something, and I was just like, I can't believe this doesn't even work. It's a dud. It was not a dud, it was me. So don't be like me and get you a nice adapter for charging the Tello. And then once you're charged, you've calibrated your IMU and updated the firmware, you've kind of done all the checks to make sure that it's going to operate when you say it is, and you're connected to the Wi-Fi, you can start using all the app features. If you would like more, there's a mini start guide, I believe, when you go to settings, or no, beginner guide that you can use. And there's also the user manual if you're encountering a weird indicator light or something off is happening and you are confused. Definitely want to look at that. And that will be linked in the blog post about this in the description. So that's a little bit about how to get started operating Tello. It's not a long list, so like I said, really user-friendly, definitely something that's pretty easy to ramp up on how to use. All right, and now on to the programming. So to program our Tello EDUs or Tellos today, we are going to be using Python, and really the goal of this demonstration / tutorial is to be able to run just a preset list of commands and just sit back, click run, and watch your drone flip left, go up X amount of centimeters and spin around. Say that was your goal. Kind of whatever you want in terms of different things and different motions the drone can do can be achieved through what we're going to do today. And so basically the starting point in all of this was the Tello SDK 2.0 user guide, which is a PDF that's linked in the blog post I wrote about this, and I may just link it a second time in the description for ease. But the Tello SDK basically defines all the different commands that you can use to control the Tello. So you've got things like UpX, CW360, and it really just explains what all of those things mean. For example, UpX, you can set X to be some value greater than, I think, 20, or no, yeah, some value greater than 20, and that's, how many centimeters up the drone will go. And then CW is clockwise rotation, so you can set a value in degrees and be able to send that command. And then another thing that the Tello SDK gives us is how to set up a UDP client and connection between your Tello and your device. So it goes into just an explanation of how that would work. There's a lot of jargon there, but the way that we're going to do it for purposes of this particular demonstration is using their reference code. So in that SDK, they also provide you with Tello3, which is a Python file that they've given users for reference on how to program their Tello. And how the Tello3 code works is it basically runs and allows you to input all of the SDK commands as a user input. So you'll be running, you'll type in command to put it in command mode, and then you'll type in takeoff, and then say you wanted it to turn 360 degrees, you'll type in your CW 360 and it will begin turning, and you kind of do it one at a time. And so for the purposes of today's demonstration is what we're going to do is basically modify their Tello3 reference code to be able to just put in all of our commands at once and watch it just hands-free run, or do a TikTok dance beside it if that's your thing. And yeah, so whatever suits your fancy, we'll be able to accomplish with this tutorial today. So in order to make the necessary changes to the Tello3 code, I wanted to briefly describe a little bit more detail on what it's doing. So I've broken it down pretty much line by line, and I've included this all in the blog post for people who want more. But basically lines 1 through 46 are what is setting up our UDP client, and that is just like a communication protocol that's enabling our laptop to send signals to our Tello EDU. UDP stands for User Datagram Protocol, and it's basically how we're sending messages called datagrams to our Tello. And so there's a lot more that goes into UDP. It's often compared with TCP, which is the more common communication protocol for internet connectivity. And so I've delved into it a little bit more in the blog post, and also linked some helpful resources if you want to learn more about UDP clients and what that all means, and just demystify some of that jargon. But for our purposes today, it's just that chunk of code that we're using to be able to send all of our messages to Tello. And we're pretty much going to leave that portion of the code, lines 1 through 46, untouched, and we're going to be making modifications to the second portion of the code. So the modification that we're making to the Tello3 code for lines 48 through 67 are basically just removal of it's in a while loop, and it's got these if statements that are accepting our input, and we're basically just going to take all of that out and leave the try except statement and basically change the message. So right now we've got message, and message equals user input for all of our commands. What we're gonna do is just create variables, also called message, and input our commands one by one. And in my code and the code I shared in the blog post, I labeled all of my message variables differently, but I don't think you actually needed to do that unless you wanted to maybe have a certain variable and reuse it over and over. But basically we take those same 3 lines and we just repeat what we're doing there, where we're I believe we're using the sock feature, and we're just sending our commands to Tello. So you're basically going to write in all of the different commands from the SDK that you're trying to have the Tello accomplish. In ours, it ended up being the up, CW, and I believe flip commands that were the motion related commands used. And another thing about the SDK commands is there's the motion commands, but there's also read and set commands. And so the read and set commands are either changing, or you're either sending a message that's going to change the speed that your Tello is operating at. So you could send a set command to set the speed at some value. So when it goes and does one of the motion commands, like up some distance, it's going to go at that speed. Or you have the read commands, which I've had the most value from, where you can just get information from the Tello. So you can read off the speed, and you can ask the Tello what battery it's at. And so I've used those commands to read the battery while I'm running, and so I can know where I'm at as I'm doing demonstrations or just doing whatever it is I'm doing in my program. And so once you've made the changes that we'll make in the new code to have the multiple message statements and remove the user input for that, you're basically able to just modify that as you please. And then the next big important thing you're going to need to do there is the addition of delays. So the addition of delays in my code is basically a feature that I added to be able to do all the motion commands that I set out to do. What I realized was when I have a message that I'm sending to the Tello and then I send another message, what would happen was if the first message was, say, turn 360 degrees and it hadn't completed that operation of actually turning 360 degrees and the second message got sent, it would skip that message, give me an error back, and just auto land. And I realized that the addition of delays was my fix for that for now. There may be an easier way to do this, and if you know of one, definitely let me know in the comments. But this is how I've been able to overcome that. So by adding delays of the time it takes to complete one command between the next command that you're sending, I've found that resulted in no errors, and the drone was able to complete all of the commands. So that's the next important step. If you are kind of planning to diverge from the code that I'm sharing in the blog post, you want to make sure that you have the right delays and the right amount of delays between each message that you're sending. So once you've done all that, and the process of adding delays right now, like I said, is kind of just through troubleshooting for me, but hopefully I find a better way to go about this and fix this problem in the future, and when I do, there will be a video. But until then, this is kind of my solution to that problem, and a way that you can go ahead and start programming your drone to do whatever tricks you want it to do. So you can use the ones that I have set out, but if you plan to change that, just know that the delays that I have in the code that I've shared in the blog post may not work perfectly for you. And if you're getting errors, that's kind of my first line of defense, is check the delay time you have in between the commands that you're sending. But once you've done all of that, you can pretty much just watch your drone do whatever you want it to do. You can do a cool TikTok dance beside it. If even one person learns the dance that I made up, I would be filled with so much joy. But that's pretty much how you would go about programming Tello with Python. And I'm sure it may be easier to do maybe in some of the other applications. I forgot to mention this earlier, but it's also programmable with Swift, Scratch, and I believe there's the Drone Blocks app you can use to drag and drop commands and run it through your phone. And yeah, so that's how you would program Tello. Thank you so much for listening and tuning in today. Be sure to subscribe for more drone projects, and definitely leave a comment if you got lost in any of this. If you have questions, please let me know, because I really want to help as many people get started programming Tello. And by the time I make this description, I may have already done this. I'm trying to make a Facebook page for people who are programming Tellos, because I started looking for one, realized I couldn't find one. So if you want that and you want to join and you're in the process of troubleshooting or you're further along, definitely join the group and ask any questions. We can all help each other, grow, learn. That's the goal. So thank you so much. Be sure to like this, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel for more.